There are quite a few. One is like a surgeon. Okay, Weird Al has like a surgeon, which uses exactly the same tune and music as like a Virgin from Madonna. But if you watch the video, it's like completely different. Okay, there's no way you can mistake, Weird Al as Madonna. I guess, some people can, but I cannot. Yep.
Would bad or fat be the same thing?
Yep.
Because it's almost a copy of the music video.
Oh, it is. Even the moves, that he performed in his own video clip called "Fat," are based on all the moves that Michael Jackson actually did in Bad. But once again, it is a satire. No one can mistake Weird Al's own version as Michael Jackson's version, or at least no one from this generation can do that. I mean, the next generation, who knows, right? Yep.
I pondered on this. There's a gray area, perhaps. If it's to go into like a legal battle, there's a gray area where like it's not exactly verbatim. Like the music. There's like a certain skip in certain in the sequence of the music, which is not exactly like it. It sounds like it's not exactly like verbatim, so therefore they get away with it.
Yeah. Well, I think it has to do with whether you're making money from it. Okay, that's a big, piece, of whether the court will rule this as an infringement versus not an infringement. For example, this has been around for many years now. Okay, this movie is put together by, is it Norwegian or Swede? I cannot remember. But anyway, a few, I guess, teenagers or early, young adults, I guess, they were absolutely bored over the winter because there's nothing to do over there in the winter. There's no sun, there's no light, whatsoever. So the guy actually put all the computer models together. He put all the 3D models together to basically put out a movie called Star Wreck. Now, if you watch the movie, the acting is god awful. I mean, that's just bad acting right there. But if you look at the computer graphics, they have Federation ships from the Star Trek, the Next Generation universe, fighting the Babylon 5 technology. Okay, and if you look at the reproduction of the 3D models, it's actually pretty good. Okay, they have the same type of ships like the Enterprise D or the Voyager and so on and so forth, which these studios can easily come and shut them down and say all these designs are copyrighted. But they have not done that because this is a complete, satire of those two series. And these guys, probably are not making any money or any significant amount of money out of this whole thing. So it is all, done under the fair use clause of the original designs. Okay, I don't think this movie has an English version, so you have to watch the subtitle when you watch it. But it's kind of interesting, For anyone who's a fan of Star Trek and also Babylon 5, this is a must watch. Add it to your must watch list.
How can I watch this?
You just go to their website. I mean, they just let you download the whole thing and go to download. Okay, they have the wallpaper, and now here's the movie. Well, these are Imperial Edition trailer, and you can download the quick. I think there are many places where you can download it. You can also download the Flash video version, see more clips from the DVD. Okay, so I guess they're making money out of it. They must have, some arrangement with the studios, that own the original movies and characters. They even copy some of the characters. Like, this is not Lieutenant Data. This is Info. His name is Info instead of Data. And then, this is not Worf. This is Dwarf. Okay. You guys have to watch it. I mean, as I said, the acting is really bad. The storyline is really, bad too. But it's just kind of funny. They have references to, more recent and modern, affairs like the Chernobyl, nuclear site waste and stuff like that. So go ahead and watch it. I mean, it's not bad. But it's a good illustration of, the copyright stuff and also, what is fair use. Okay. Are there any questions about the PC design project? Getting back to more serious stuff that has to do with your grade. Yes. Question?
Oh, no.
Okay. No questions? Everybody is going, at a good pace right here. I just want to remind the class. Yep, go ahead.
LMMS says you need a general MIDI sound font. Where can you find one?
Debian has one. If you go to the Debian website or Ubuntu, just look under the keyword sound font, and they have some already. That's basically what I did with my live DVD. I have to rebuild it, so that it has all the built-in sound fonts included. If there are no questions about the design project, I just want to remind everyone that it is due on Thursday, right before the class at 9 a.m. Okay, this is not 9 p.m., it's 9 a.m., right before the class. And, the interface will close automatically at 9 o'clock. Okay, so there's no way someone can turn it in late. So you got to do it, and turn it in on or before this time. Any other questions related to building your own PC? No questions? If there are no questions about that, we'll continue to talk about the final. The final is going to be based on Scratch. So we have to talk about Scratch first.
I thought it was a bunch of presentations.
No, there's presentations, which counts for some points, but that's not your final.
I have a quick question
Yep.
about the project. Let's say I'm working with a budget, and what I'm going to list are the items that I can acquire based on my budget, only, right? Because there might be other components that have to be added, and those, since I can't fit them into the budget, I have to stick with what I can fit in the budget.
Well, your budget has to be met. I mean, if you set up a budget like $500, you may be able to get over by maybe $50 or so, but it cannot be out of the ballpark of $500.
Right.
So your budget becomes your constraint. You have to basically make sure that your computer does not cost a lot more than $500.
So I have to work within those parameters, right?
Yeah.
What I'm going to be creating. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Is Scratch a fifth generation language, or is that a fourth generation language, or?
No, I would call this just a procedural programming language, except it is in a more graphical form. So if you, in terms of concepts, this is very, very traditional. This is like typical traditional programming, a traditional programming language, except you don't have to learn the syntax because it's all drag and drop. That's a good question. In this class we don't want to get into the fourth generation programming language and stuff like that. And besides, most people don't even refer to the generations anymore, especially with modern languages. The most common, quote unquote feature is the programming language object oriented. I think that's the biggest thing that people care about these days, is whether it's object oriented. Okay, so getting back to Scratch, let's go ahead and try to make Scratch do a few more things. Okay, but before we do that, let's go back to variables and make sure that everybody understands what a variable is and how do you make one and what can you do with variables. Okay, so those are the things that we want to get out of the way first, and then we can talk about the different types of statements, the logic they can specify with a Scratch program. What a variable is, okay, if you click Make a Variable, you can create a new variable. A variable has basically two parts that has to be there. One is the name. In other words, I can create 20,000 variables if I want to. Okay, but how do I say that I'm using this variable instead of the other one? Well, it has to be done by the name. So that's why you have to name variables uniquely. Every variable must have a unique name. So in this case, let's go ahead and create a few variables here. And just for the lack of purpose, okay, I'm not sure what I would do with this variable yet, so I'll just call it x, which is a typical name for a variable in, say, mathematics. And then you just click OK. After you create a variable, Scratch will give you a few new items, so you can drag and drop those items into the program. The first one is x, okay? It is kind of rounded in shape, which means it can go anywhere in any slot that is expecting, a rounded object. The others, have a little tab symbol here. If you look at this one here, it has a tab on the top, has a little tab at the bottom, or I should say a notch at the top. It is a step, okay? You can put this one into a program as a particular step. These four things, basically they respectively, you can change the value of x to a specific value. You can reset the value of x to 0, 5, 10, whatever you want to specify. The 0 can be substituted by an expression. So you can use an expression, a calculation, to set the initial value of this variable x. The second one is change x by a certain amount. That's basically either incrementing or decrementing x. The way it is right now, change x by 1 is incrementing by 1. If x has a value of 2, you execute a statement here, it will have a value of 3 after that. These two are basically just whether you want to show the variable or hide the variable. The way it is right now is it is shown on the screen, on the stage. In other words, every time I make some changes to x, it will be reflected here on the screen, which is great for debugging and also for illustration purposes. Without actually writing a program, I can change the value of x just by tapping or just by clicking on this little statement here. I can click the value I want to change it to. Let's say I want to change it so that it begins with a value of, say, 25. I press the Enter key. That makes the 25 effective, but I have not executed this statement yet. If I click here, then you can see that x now has a value of 25. In other words, you can test individual actions of Scratch without actually putting a program together. Are we doing okay so far with the concept of a variable? Okay? The reason why x is called a variable is because its value can change over time. I can go here, I can click change x by 1, I can click it once, and you can see the value of x is now 26 instead of 25. Okay? So that's how you can change the value of a variable. And the value of a variable remains the same unless you change it throughout the execution of the program. Are there any questions about what a variable is? No questions? Okay. Now, in a real program, you cannot make another variable of the same name. The programming environment will somehow give you an error message and say this name has been used already and you cannot reuse it. In Scratch, it is nice because if you try to use the same name again, it will give you a feedback right away and say this variable name is already in use, so you have to pick another name for the second variable. Are we doing okay so far with the concept of a variable? You can look at each variable as a little slip of paper that can basically remember some little facts that you want to keep track of as you execute the program. It can be a score. If you're writing a game, it can be the score of the game. How many points the user has scored already. It doesn't have to be the coordinate of a sprite, because a sprite already knows its own coordinate. So there are easier ways to get to the XY coordinate of a sprite. It can also be how many lives are remaining in the game. Okay, if in the previous game, if I crash my little car, several times, you can say, okay, you only